guys, it's Ty with Ty the Dog Guy on the daily. And I'm out on my daily walk with good old chocolate chip here. And I wanted to talk about how to have your dog greet people on a trail, on leash, off leash, on a walk, things like that. Because that's a question I get a lot, especially from our clients here in Utah who like to go on trails and things like that. It's a big question. So I've developed a formula over the years for allowing, for how to have this happen, for how to have, dogs greet each other. I'm talking strange dogs here. Chip, come on. And I've been able to encapsulate that formula into one single solitary word. So it's pretty cool. And actually, in theory, is actually very easy. And what that word is don't. I know. Maybe you're waiting for that. But the answer is don't. Don't let your dog meet other dogs on the trail, on walks, on leash, off leash. Now, this might sound kind of extreme. Come on, Chip. And it might sound like, don't we want our dogs to have fun? And don't we want our dogs? And the answer is yes. But, and I know I might be a little bit more conservative, a little bit more extreme with this than some folks might be. But the reality is that after having seen so many nightmares, heard of so many nightmares, witnessed so many nightmares, been told the story of so many nightmares, over the years, I just don't see the purpose of allowing our dogs to do this. So let's talk about, why it turns into a problem, because it quite frequently does. Dogs are social creatures. They are. But most dogs, the overwhelming majority of dogs, haven't learned social skills. And there's a difference, right? Because humans are social creatures. That doesn't mean every human, learns social skills. And humans will learn social skills at different rates and different, some will be better, others will be worse. But the thing is, with humans, there's a built-in mechanism for meeting. It's called society. And so some people develop social skills at school. Some people destroy their social skills at school. For other people, it's work. Other people, it's family groups. Other people, it's kids in the neighborhood. And so, but there's these built-in mechanisms. And so, there's a lot of repetition that we humans get in learning what's appropriate in society and what's not. Now, most dogs don't. And so, there's some owners that take real good care of this. But even owners that are trying to get a lot of exposure for their dogs often do it inappropriately and incorrectly and end up with a dog that has social problems. Maybe he's too exuberant, or maybe he's kind of a, jerk when he's trying to play, or maybe, just over the top with, or maybe like too submissive or things like that. So even owners that do get a lot of exposure for their dogs are often doing it without understanding dog behavior, and are often doing it with other dogs that also don't, have the greatest social skills. And so when you encounter another dog that's a strange dog, the chances of that dog being balanced and able to carry on a good canine conversation aren't huge. And so you're already starting behind the eight ball with most dogs when you're attempting to do stuff like this. You're already, putting your dog in a position where, there's a halfway decent chance that the dog you're encountering is going to be a jerk, too dominant, too submissive, too something, and now you're putting your dog right up against that. So that's one of the, first problems. The second problem is the way that dogs greet. The way that owners want dogs to greet tends to be like, it just depends, right? So a lot of owners, they want, when they have little play dates with their dogs, they love when they go over and the dog's freaking out and he's jumping all over the place and, getting super excited on these play dates, and then the dogs play super rough for a half hour or an hour, and then they go home. A lot of owners, will do that, right? They'll have friends or dogs in the neighborhood that they'll do play dates with. Come on, Chip. Come on. And the problem is, like I say, this teaches very inappropriate greeting skills. And so the way that most dogs greet, when you see, for example, when we have dogs come into our daycare, and we've got a group of dogs, and we introduce a new one, we insist that the new one comes in calm, and we insist that the group is calm. You know, these exuberant greetings are kind of crazy and counterproductive and aren't the way that, you know, a good calm dog is going to greet another dog. And so most people unintentionally have taught their dogs to have really bad manners. You know, the past 20 dogs they've greeted, their dog has been on a tight leash, pulling to get towards the other dog, maybe even whining, maybe even barking, and they're like, oh, he really wants to play. But it's like the absolute worst manners that a dog could have. And so if you've got a well-trained dog or non-well-trained dog for that matter, any dog, and here comes this dog, excuse me, lunging at the leash, pulling like crazy, trying to get to your dog, it's a really bad setup for a greeting. And so, like I say, that's the way that most people have kind of set their dogs up to greet. Where it's also a bad idea is what I was mentioning there with the tight leash. You know, a lot of folks are in the habit of, a lot of professional dog trainers don't even teach their dogs to walk on a loose leash. And so here you've got dogs that are straining on the leash, which creates tension. Tension creates frustration. Frustration can create aggression or reactivity or things like that. And so most dogs that you meet on a trail or on a walk, they're already pulling on the leash, or you're already in a bad, you know, mindset for, you know, for a greeting. And so everything just kind of converges together. We don't know who the dog is. We don't know if the dog has good socialization. We don't know if the dog has good training. We don't know if the dog has a good mindset. We don't know if the other dog knows how to greet properly without pulling on the leash to get to you and creating a lot of frustration and a lot of, you know, nervousness for your dog. There's so many things that we don't know. Why would I allow my dog to meet that? Now, what are the exceptions? Exceptions can be, you know, if I can read the scenario. Perhaps, you know, the neighbor of mine or somebody in my neighborhood is walking their dog. It's calm by their side. He calls out and says, hey, can I ask you a question? And I calmly go over with my dog, and we have our dog sit, and our dogs are sitting next to our sides, and we can kind of tell that they're vibing really well. You know, maybe we are in a good position for a greeting at that point. So there are exceptions to this, but generally when most people are wanting to meet, you know, they're on a trail and they're just trying to get to A to B. They're not trying to have tons of discussion, or they're just in the neighborhood and they don't have time to talk with the neighbor or whatever. And so most of the time we're not in a position to do that. If I had a nickel for every time someone has called out, hey, my dog's friendly, and then that dog tries to attack, I'd probably have $4.38 to my name right now, because I've seen that happen so many times over the years. It's where people just have absolutely no reading of their own dog, no understanding of their own dog, and think that, oh, all dogs should be able to play, right? Well, play is an important part of dog communication, but it's like number 12 down the list, and you shouldn't start there. Every interaction should start out calm, under control, and evaluate at that point to see if it should go further into, you know, a play type interaction. So be very careful on those trails. Shoo dogs away if they're coming at you. Get off the trail, have your dog sit next to your side. You know, do everything you can to kind of be that dog's protector.